My name is Olivia Carter, and 5 years ago, my own family tried to stop me from boarding a plane to Paris for my graduation. That morning in our Phoenix kitchen, I was holding the envelope with my ticket, checking the time on my phone. 5 hours until the airport. My mom walked in, saw the envelope, and something in her face shut down instantly. Before I could even speak, she grabbed it from my hand, crossed the room, lifted the big green trash can by the garage, and dropped my ticket inside. My little sister stood next to her and laughed. "What does a beggar like you need a Paris graduation dream for?" she said, loud enough to sting worse than a slap. Their laughter filled the house. For a second, I froze. Then I didn't. I walked over, lifted the lid, and reached straight into the sticky, sour-smelling trash without hesitation. I pulled out the crumpled ticket, wiped it on my jeans, grabbed my suitcase, and headed for the door. "If you walk out, don't come crawling back," my mom yelled. I stopped just long enough to say, "That choice is yours, not mine." 5 hours later, I was in the air flying toward the city they swore I'd never see. 5 years later, my home security camera would show two exhausted, desperate faces ringing my doorbell like their lives depended on it. And this time, the beggars weren't me. If you've ever had someone try to throw your future in the trash, stay with me. Hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs proof that walking away can be the beginning of everything. When the plane leveled out above the clouds, I leaned back and tried to breathe. But my mind kept dragging me back to Phoenix, to how things had been rotting long before that ticket hit the trash. I grew up in a one-story house on the edge of the city. Same cracked driveways. Same burned grass. My mom, Lisa, came home exhausted from her furniture store job, dropping bills on the counter like reminders of how much we owed the world. Outfit videos, practicing poses like fame was already waiting. I filled the gaps. I opened the cafe at 5 in the morning, took the early bus, came home smelling like espresso and syrup, cooked, cleaned, and squeezed in online art classes at night. Every month, I slid folded cash across the counter. My mom scooped it up without looking, muttering that it barely helped. Jenna joked I should paint faster if I wanted to be useful. On paper, we looked like a normal working family. In reality, there was an unspoken rule. My value was measured by what I provided, not by who I wanted to become. I barely talked about Paris at first. The dream felt fragile. Late at night, I sat on my bedroom floor surrounded by canvases, painting the same image again and again, someone climbing out of a box while hands tried to drag them back. I sent photos to an international art program in Paris, half convinced they'd never open the email. When the acceptance letter came, it was cheap white paper with my name spelled right for once. Partial scholarship. Graduation showcase. For the first time, someone who didn't share my last name thought I was worth investing in. When I told my mom, she didn't smile. "Paris," she said slowly. "Who's paying the bills while you play artist in France?" I told her I'd keep working, that I had savings, that this was my chance. She waved the letter at Jenna. "At least you're doing something real," she said. "Something with a future." Then she looked at me. "Art doesn't pay the mortgage. Coffee tips don't keep the lights on." It hurt because she knew exactly how many hours those tips cost me. Jenna smirked. "You're always begging for more time, more understanding," she said. "For what?" "Some sad painting in a city you can't afford." That night, washing their dishes while they laughed, I finally understood something. In that house, I would never be more than free labor with an embarrassing dream. They didn't see my acceptance letter as an achievement. They saw it as a threat. That's why the morning my mom threw my ticket away wasn't sudden. It was inevitable. Leaving didn't feel cinematic. No music. No slow motion. Just my heartbeat and one terrifying question. What if this is the biggest mistake of my life? As the Uber pulled away, I watched the front door in the mirror, waiting for it to open. It never did. The only thing that followed me was her voice telling me not to come back. On the way to the airport, my phone buzzed. It was my best friend Taylor. She sent a screenshot of a small transfer from her nurse paycheck. "I can't fix your family," she wrote, "but I can help you get on that plane. Don't waste this chance." I cried silently so the driver wouldn't hear. Paris wasn't romantic at first. Cold air. Tiny dorm room. A window over a street that never slept. But for the first time in my life, no one walked in behind me. No yelling. No rent demands. Just silence, scary and freeing at the same time. Reality hit fast. Groceries were expensive. My scholarship didn't cover everything. I walked for hours handing out resumes, stumbling through broken French. A small cafe hired me. Then a professor connected me to a gallery. That's how I met Elise. She barely looked at my resume. "We need someone who won't drop ladders," she said. "Can you handle that?" I could. Weeks later, she noticed my sketchbook. Asked to see it. Flipped through page after page of ticket stubs, receipts, paint, and that same image, hands pulling someone back into trash. "You're very literal," she said. Then paused. "But you're honest." That was the first praise I'd heard in years. When my painting finally hung in her gallery, most people walked past it. One didn't. An older woman stared. Asked who the artist was. Bought it. The money wasn't huge. But holding that envelope felt like the universe whispering, "You're not crazy." I wasn't a beggar anymore. I was an artist who got paid. Paris changed me quietly. Not overnight. Not in some movie montage way. Slowly. Through exhaustion. Through loneliness. Through learning how to stand without waiting for permission. I worked mornings at the cafe, afternoons at the gallery, nights painting until my fingers cramped. Some days I ate bread and cheese and called it dinner. Some nights I questioned everything. But no one yelled at me for resting. No one counted my hours like debt. Back home, my mom barely checked in. When she did, it wasn't about me. "How much are you making now? Are you sending anything this month? Jenna needs help with her phone bill." I sent less. Then less again. The guilt tried to crawl back in, but distance gave me clarity. Every time I hesitated, I remembered the sound of my ticket hitting the trash. 2 years later, things shifted. Elise introduced me to collectors. Small ones. Quiet ones. People who asked questions instead of looking for discounts. My name started appearing on tiny labels next to paintings. Nothing viral. Nothing flashy. But steady. I moved out of the dorm into a shared apartment with peeling walls and terrible plumbing. It felt like a palace. That's when my sister started posting again. Videos. Soft life. Healing era. Cafe selfies. Designer bags. Comments filled with praise. People thought she was grinding. I knew better. Because suddenly, my mom was calling more often. Too often. "Your sister's having a rough time," she'd say. "She's depressed. She needs support." Support always meant money. I asked questions this time. Real ones. "Where's the job? Where's the budget? Where's the responsibility?" Mom snapped. "You've changed," she said. "Paris made you selfish." I almost laughed. No. Paris just showed me who I was without them draining me dry. The final call came late one night. My mom was crying. Full panic mode. "They're taking the house," she said. "We're going to lose everything." I felt the old instinct rise, save them. Then I asked one question. "How much does Jenna spend a month?" Silence. Then anger. "How dare you judge us?" That was my answer. I didn't send the money. 6 months later, I saw the post. Jenna, posing in front of a new apartment. Caption, "New beginnings, 2 hearts." In the background? Furniture I recognized. Things bought while I was skipping meals. I blocked them both that night. Not out of hate. Out of survival. A year after that, my first solo exhibit opened. Nothing huge. 20 paintings. White walls. Wine in plastic cups. But my name was on the door. People listened when I spoke. They asked about my work. They didn't ask what I could give them. When the night ended, I stood alone in the empty gallery and cried, not because I was sad, but because no one was taking anything from me. That's when the doorbell camera notification came. 2 figures standing outside my apartment back home in Phoenix. Older. Tired. Smaller. My mom and my sister. Watching them through my phone screen, I realized something I never thought I'd feel. Peace. The door stayed closed longer than it needed to. Not because I was scared, but because for the first time in my life, I knew I didn't have to open it. On my phone screen, my mom kept adjusting her purse strap. My sister crossed and uncrossed her arms, eyes darting around like she already felt judged by a place she didn't belong to anymore. I finally unlocked the door. No hugs. No apologies. Just silence. "You look different," my mom said first. She didn't mean my hair or my clothes. She meant the way I was standing. Straight. Unapologetic. Not shrinking to make space for her emotions. Jenna tried to smile. It didn't land. "We didn't know where else to go," she said. "Mom said you'd understand." There it was. The old script. I stepped aside and let them in, not as guests, more like witnesses. They looked around the apartment like they were inventorying it. The clean walls. The art. The calm. No chaos. No emergency energy. My mom's voice cracked. "We just need a little help. Temporary. Until things settle." I didn't sit down. I stayed standing. "How much?" I asked. They exchanged a look. That look told me everything. "I'm not doing this again," I said calmly. My sister's face hardened. "So you're really like this now?" "Yes," I said. "I am." My mom started crying. Loud. Desperate. The kind that used to fold me instantly. "You're choosing money over family," she sobbed. I shook my head. "No. I'm choosing my life over being used." The room felt tight. For a moment, no one spoke. Then my sister snapped, "You think you're better than us now?" That one almost hurt. Almost. "I don't think I'm better," I said. "I think I'm done paying for choices I didn't make." They stayed less than 20 minutes. No money exchanged hands. No promises made. When the door closed behind them, my hands were shaking, but my chest felt light. I didn't collapse. I didn't cry. I cooked dinner. I ate it slowly. I slept through the night. The fallout came later. Messages from extended family. Vague posts online about fake support and people who forget where they came from. I didn't respond. Because for the first time, I wasn't trying to explain myself to people committed to misunderstanding me. Months passed. Then a year. The noise faded. What replaced it was something I never had growing up. Stability. One evening, while cleaning my studio, I found an old envelope tucked behind a canvas. Inside was a receipt from years ago, money I'd sent home during one of their emergencies. I stared at the number and laughed. Not bitterly. Relieved. Because that version of me? She doesn't exist anymore. I didn't win by hurting them. I won by walking away intact. And the craziest part? The world didn't end when I stopped saving them. It finally started. The message came in on a Tuesday afternoon. No warning. No small talk. Just one line. "Mom's in the hospital." I stared at the screen longer than I want to admit. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to care anymore without losing myself. The details followed slowly. Complications. Stress. Blood pressure. Nothing life-ending. Nothing dramatic enough to justify the years of damage. Still, that familiar pull crept in. Go fix it. Go be the good daughter. I didn't reply right away. For the first time, I asked myself a question no one had ever taught me to ask. What do I want to do? I went to the hospital 2 days later. Not running. Not apologizing. Not carrying solutions. Just present. My mom looked smaller in the bed. Older. The machines did what machines always do, beeped steadily, indifferent to history. She tried to smile when she saw me. "You came," she said, surprised. "Yes," I said. "I did." She didn't jump into guilt this time. No tears. No accusations. Just exhaustion. "I messed things up," she said quietly. I waited. She didn't ask for money. She didn't ask me to fix anything. So I stayed. We talked about neutral things. Doctors. Weather. The food being terrible. Then she said something that shifted the air in the room. "I don't know how to be your mom without needing you." That one landed hard. I didn't rush to comfort her. I didn't say it was okay. I said the truth. "I don't know how to be your daughter if you keep seeing me as a backup plan." She nodded. Slowly. When I left, I didn't promise anything. Not visits. Not help. Not forgiveness. Just this. "I hope you get better. But I'm not stepping back into the old roles." She didn't argue. That mattered more than any apology. Weeks later, she was discharged. Life moved on. Not perfectly. Not magically, but differently. My sister stopped posting cryptic quotes. The calls stopped feeling urgent. The silence stopped feeling like danger. And I finally understood something that took me decades to learn. Distance isn't cruelty. Sometimes it's clarity. I didn't get closure the way movies promise. No grand apology. No tearful reunion. What I got was something quieter. Freedom without guilt. Now, when people ask why I don't help more, I just say, I already did. For years. And I leave it at that. Final cliffhanger setup. Because the truth is, the hardest part wasn't walking away from them. It was learning who I was after I did. And that story? That one finally belonged to me. After that hospital visit, something strange happened. Nothing exploded. No dramatic relapse. No midnight phone calls begging me to come save the day. Just space. And for a while, that space felt uncomfortable. Empty. Like I was waiting for a fire alarm that never went off. I realized how trained I was to chaos. When your whole identity is built around being needed, peace can feel suspicious. I kept checking my phone. Kept bracing for impact. It never came. Instead, my life got quiet. I woke up without dread. Went to work without carrying someone else's secrets. Spent money without calculating who might need it more than me. That freedom came with grief no one talks about. Not grief for what I lost, but for what I never had. I grieved the version of a mother who could love without taking. A sister who didn't confuse support with entitlement. A childhood where helping didn't mean sacrificing myself. That grief hit randomly. In grocery store aisles. On calm Sunday mornings. In moments that were supposed to feel happy. One night, during therapy, my therapist said something that rewired my brain. You weren't raised to be a daughter, she said. You were raised to be a solution. I couldn't breathe for a second. Because once she said it, I saw everything clearly. The bills I translated as a kid. The arguments I mediated. The money I sent before paying my own rent. I was never allowed to just exist. That's when the anger came. Not explosive. Focused. I stopped softening my story for other people's comfort. When someone said, "But she's still your mom," I answered, "And I'm still a person." When people implied I was cold, I stopped defending myself. Months later, my sister sent a message. No guilt. No drama. Just, "I'm starting therapy. I didn't realize how much I depended on you. I'm sorry." I didn't rush to respond. Growth doesn't need instant forgiveness. But I replied, "Thank you for saying that. Nothing more. Nothing less." That was the moment I understood something important. Healing doesn't mean letting people back in. It means letting yourself out of the cage. Today, my life looks boring to outsiders. Same job. Same apartment. Same routines. But inside, it's peaceful. And peace, after years of emotional debt, feels like wealth. Quiet cliffhanger. But here's what no one warned me about. When you stop being the family safety net, someone always tries to pull you back. And next time, the choice wasn't as easy. The pull came on a random Tuesday. No warning. No build-up. Just a name lighting up my phone that I hadn't seen in over a year. Mom. For a second, I didn't answer. I just stared at the screen like it might bite me. Old instincts woke up fast. The fixer. The protector. The girl trained to drop everything. I let it ring out. 5 minutes later, a voicemail. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. Tired. Careful. Olivia. I don't know who else to call. I'm not asking for money. I need help understanding something. That line almost got me. I'm not asking for money. They always say that first. I waited an hour before calling back. Boundaries aren't just walls. They're pauses. When she answered, there was relief in her breath, like she'd been holding it the whole time. She told me she'd been laid off again. That she was scared. That everything felt unstable. Then came the sentence that mattered. I don't know how to do this without you. There it was. Not manipulation. Not cruelty. Dependence. And that was harder to say no to. I didn't jump in. Didn't offer solutions. Didn't start planning. Instead, I said something that would have shocked the old me. I believe you can figure it out. Silence. Then confusion. You do? She asked. Yes, I said. And I'm not going to do it for you. She didn't yell, didn't cry. She just sounded lost. And for the first time, that wasn't my emergency to solve. After we hung up, I sat on my couch shaking. Not because I'd been cruel. Because I'd been kind without self-betrayal. That was new. The next few weeks were quiet again. Then my sister called. She was different this time. Slower. More thoughtful. She told me therapy was hard. That she was unpacking things she didn't like about herself. I didn't realize how much I copied Mom, she admitted. Especially how we leaned on you. I believed her. Not because of the words, but because she didn't ask me to fix anything. Something shifted after that. They stopped calling in panic. Stopped testing my limits. Not because they didn't need help, but because they were learning to live without borrowing my spine. And here's the truth nobody tells you. When you stop rescuing people, some relationships don't survive. But the ones that do, they're real for the first time. A year later, my mom sent me a photo. Nothing dramatic. Just her standing outside a small community center, holding a certificate. Job training completion. I did this myself, she wrote. I stared at that message for a long time. Proud. Sad. Relieved. All at once. That's when I realized something final. I didn't abandon my family. I ended a cycle. And cycles don't break loudly. They break quietly. When one person decides they're done bleeding for belonging. If this story feels personal, it's because it is. And if you're the one everyone leans on, just know this. You are allowed to put the weight down and still walk away whole.